Hello, this is Scott, and this is Bible study. Actually, week one from our Proverbs Bible study happening on Thursday nights at the Doublewood Inn, 7 p.m. And we are just going to kind of go through what we did last week. That way, if you missed it, you can catch up. And if you don't want to come, you can still get in on some of this. It was some really fun stuff. So we're taking a walk through Proverbs. It's hard to say what is a favorite part of the Bible for me, because I love so much of it. But Proverbs boils wisdom down so beautifully. So we're going to look at Proverbs here for a bunch of weeks. I don't even know how long. We're just going to keep on going until we get tired of it and want to do something else. And so that's Thursday nights. But the theme of Proverbs is wisdom. The word wisdom is used 125 times in Proverbs. And the thing about Proverbs, it helps us to apply God's wisdom to daily life. They're really practical. They're really usable. Proverbs is part of the wisdom literature along with Job and Ecclesiastes. And the thing that I like about the wisdom literature in the Scripture is that the Bible takes difficult things head on. It doesn't shrink back. It just pushes right on through. So Ephesians chapter 5 verse 15, the Living Translation says, "So be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise." And Proverbs can help us do that. Proverbs can help us have a biblical right relationship with God that just keeps on going and going. And the nice thing about God's wisdom is that it has very little, if not nothing, to do with IQ or education, which is actually really good news for me, because my IQ and education are probably all lacking. But it's about character, it's about values, and it's about looking at the world through God's truth, looking at the world through God's eyes and saying, God, you're smarter than me, so I'm going to do this your way instead of my way. And it's so great that God gives us this incredible treasure that I don't have to make all the mistakes that everybody else makes if I will listen to God. Maybe you've heard somebody say at some point or another, they said, I'm the kind of guy that's got to learn the hard way. Well, that's stupid. If you're the kind of person that says that as if it's a badge of honor, I just want you to know you're a fool. To have to learn everything yourself because you're the kind of person that's stubborn and has to learn the hard way, you are a biblical fool. You are a practical fool. And we all need to strive to do a better job of realizing that we're not the smartest people on the planet. We got a lot of room to grow. We don't know everything yet. And I think that, when we're young, we kind of think we know everything. We know we're invincible. We think that we're smarter than everybody else. But then you get a little older and all of a sudden you realize what a moron you really are. And then you have to go on from there. So the question, why is it important to God to be wise? Why does He give us all of these wonderful gifts that are His Word? Exodus chapter 20, 28:3, "Instruct all the skilled craftsmen, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, and have them make garments for Aaron that will distinguish him as a priest and set apart for my service." God gives you wisdom in His Word, not only because He loves you, but He loves you, but He does. He loves you and He wants you to have a good life, but you represent Him on this planet. In order for you to accomplish all that God has intended for you, in order for you to be the man or woman that He intends you to be, you're going to need wisdom. You're going to have to soak up His truth. Now, God's wisdom is not theoretical, but it's practical. And wise people still go through hard times. In the book of Proverbs, it tends to paint a picture that if you do this, everything's going to be good all the time. If you do this, this will always happen. If you do this, this will always happen. But you got to balance that with the rest of Scripture, like the book of Job, which is also a wisdom book, that says, sometimes bad things just happen. So it's not that the Proverbs are a magic trick. It's not that they are somehow going to make something happen. But the reality is that if you live your life God's way instead of your way, He's smarter than you, and your life is just going to work better. Okay? It's not a promise that everything's going to be easy, but I promise it'll be easier. Okay? The wise go through hard times, but they can do it in a way where God is glorified, which we get out of Job a lot more. But we're not talking about Job. We're talking about Proverbs here. History is full of people who were brilliant. They were smart, but they were not wise enough to be... they're smart enough to be rich and famous, but not wise enough to have a satisfying life. Look at the disasters that so many celebrities lived through. Look at the incredible artists and inventors that they were so brilliant, but because they lacked wisdom, their lives was not one that I would want. So who wrote the book of Proverbs? Solomon, David's son. These are the Proverbs of Solomon, David's son. 10:1, the Proverbs of Solomon. Proverbs 25:1. These are the Proverbs of Solomon. Even if you get back to the 31 is a different name there, but theologians think that was still Solomon. So Solomon combined these. And I just read a book. I'm actually reading it right now about the wisdom literature. It's a series of lectures from a Catholic priest. But he was talking a little bit about how the wisdom books are these wisdom books are important, that they happened during the reign of Solomon, because it was a time of peace. It was a time when Israel they were able to bring all of these things together. And so here we have it. I'm not going to read it, but 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 5, God appears to Solomon in a dream and says, Solomon, what do you want? And Solomon says, I want wisdom. God says, good, you're smart. Because wisdom begets everything else. And so that's why Solomon gets to write this. His wisdom was so incredible that people came from all over the world to see. God gave Solomon great wisdom, it says in 1 Kings chapter 4, and understanding. He was wiser than anyone else. Down in verse 32, 3,000 proverbs, 1,005 songs. He was amazing. And so Solomon is the writer of Proverbs. So what are some of your favorite proverbs or sayings? Now this is not going to take as long because you're not actually here to answer me, but we did discuss this in our Bible study. Who do you consider to be wise, past and present? If you had to pick one area where you were wise, what would that area be? How are you smarter than other people? What's your skill? What is the thing that comes naturally to you? Now, there's almost every nation that has ever been, every people group have had their own proverbs. And the thing about a proverb, it's a pithy, short saying that you're able to hang wisdom on. All right, here's a few. Always do right. This will gratify some and astonish the rest. Mark Twain. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's been around for a long time, but it was actually Chaucer quoted a version of one of his poems in 1385. Here's an old Irish proverb. Every invalid is a physician. In other words, if you got pain in your body, you are going to become an expert to get rid of that pain. You are the one that hurts, so you are the one that's going to pursue that knowledge. Serbian proverb says, if vinegar is free, it is sweeter than honey. This is free, by the way. You didn't pay anything for this. From Crete, when you want a drink of milk, you don't buy the whole cow. We have one like that here in America. If you can get the milk why buy the cow if you get the milk for free? Planning to say that a lot to my daughter, Elizabeth. The Romans, they would smile at timid politicians and soldiers, and they would say, the cat would eat the fish, but she doesn't want to get her feet wet. In other words, she wants something, but she is not willing to do what it takes. So, take a minute if you want, or just think through it a little bit to prove the point. Expand those 4 proverbs into 4 paragraphs of explanation. And if you do, you're going to learn to appreciate the brevity and the richness of Proverbs. How the pithy statements, they can summarize in just a few choice words all kinds of truths that you can grab a hold of when you say those things, even though some of them were probably unfamiliar to you. But you kind of knew what it meant because of the way it was written. If vinegar is free, it is sweeter than honey. Your mind probably went to ours. It's easier to catch bees with honey than vinegar. But you think about it, if you had to pay for the honey, so you knew what that proverb meant, even without it being explained. But if you're going to write that into a paragraph without any metaphors, without any word plays, it would have been much, much harder. And so because Proverbs are brief and pictorial, they are easy to memorize, they're easy to recall, and they're easy to share. So here's a cool one for you. How to create a proverb. If you have something that you need to create, you need to communicate rather, sometimes drilling it down into a proverb is the best way to do it. It might be a boss, it might be a loved one, it might be whoever it is, to communicate something into a proverb. Start by writing out what you want to say. Now, actually, I'm preaching this sermon on Sunday, but I did this a few weeks ago, and I knew I'd be talking about Satan, and this is what I want to communicate. Satan is all-powerful, or God is all-powerful, and Satan is not. No matter how big Satan may be, he is smaller than God. I am under God's protection, and he's given me his power, so no matter what, the devil can't hurt me. That's the truth that I wanted to communicate. This Sunday, I want everybody to walk out of the room remembering a proverb that says that. They're not going to remember that. If I read that, no one's going to remember that. So I wrote it out, and I crossed out words. I moved words around. I boiled it and boiled it until I had this. Satan, as big as you make him. Well, obviously he's big, right? But not compared to God. And so the only power he has over me is the power I give him. Satan, as big as you make him. Wow, there it is. If I can get everybody to walk out of church on Sunday knowing that Satan is a puny microbe compared to God, that's awesome. Now, I also want them to realize that they try to fight the devil on their own, they're going to be in trouble, but that's something else. This week, look for Proverbs around you and read 2 Timothy chapter 3 and be ready to answer the question, why is the Bible the ultimate source of Proverbs? So that is just a quick overview of what we did last week. And I hope to see you at Bible study soon or on church. We got church 10 o'clock every Sunday. West Acres Cinema. It's a lot of fun. I'll get you good coffee, good donuts, good popcorn. Stop by the free stuff table and get all your Christmas gifts taken care of. Also, Thursday nights at 7 o'clock is the Deeper Rock. And I want to invite you to be a part of that as well. Hey, Lord bless you. We'll talk to you later.